I can hear myself. So yes, so that's why y'all have a business card on there. So I'm graduating in August from Texas Tech with my PhD. I have agreed to stay on for a 1-year appointment at Texas Tech. So starting in the fall of 2017, I'm a free agent. Y'all can start bidding now if you want to, however that works out best for you. But yes, so I will be in the next year looking for a position. I enjoy teaching very much, so that's really what I want to focus on. I do research, but I really like getting in the classroom teaching and working with students. And I have learned in my time back at school here working on my PhD that students are a lot different nowadays. I took about 12 years off of school from when I received my master's degree until I came back to get my PhD. And it was completely different when I came back. From a student standpoint, completely different, but the students that I was teaching were completely different from what I had been used to in the past. So there was a little learning curve when I first stepped into the classroom. I teach 2 classes right now, and I teach them in 2 different ways. So the first class I teach is a food and beverage operations management class. It's a senior level class. And what I work on with my students there, they've gone through a lot of management development class. They've gone through some foods courses. A lot of my students are really interested in owning their own business. So in that class, we work on actually developing a business plan. They create their own business on paper, and we go through that in that class. I teach that face-to-face, and then I also teach it online. I developed it as an online class. So I teach that both ways. And then the other class that I teach is an experimental foods class, which is probably the funner of the 2 for me. So my experimental foods class is a lecture and lab-based class. I have students in for 2 50-minute lectures each week and then a 2-hour lab. I also teach that face-to-face and online. So that was actually the basis of my dissertation research, was taking that lab-based class, creating it online and saying, hey, does this work? And what I found and what I was doing, that yes, it does work, and it's a possibility for our students that you can actually do that online, and they can learn that way as well. Opens up a whole world of possibilities for us as educators, because now we can go out and we can reach people that are not right here in front of us. Coming out of the hospitality industry, there's a lot of people that work out there without the benefit of a degree, and I think if we can really create some of these online courses to help them out to get that degree without them having to give up their job, their house, move somewhere else to go to school, I think we can really do that. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. But we'll go back to where I first came into the classroom. January 2014, I was coming back to school. I met with the professor that I was taking the class over for. This is the experimental foods class. They said, yeah, you're going to be great at this. Go in, teach this class. It's going to be wonderful. So I sat down to talk to her about the class, what she was doing, what kind of advice she had. And this professor, she'd been in the classroom for a while. Technology was not really her thing. At the time, our university was using a learning management system called e-learning, which really all you did was upload files and students would go on and print things off, and that was their online experience. And she was like, I don't do it, so don't worry about it. So I said, okay. So I said, well, what advice do you have for me going in the class? And I remember this, and I hold it in my brain. She said, don't give them your PowerPoints. They're going to ask you, can you put the PowerPoints online? Don't do it, because they're not going to come to class. And so I said, all right, I'm going into that class, and I'm not giving them any PowerPoints. So I go into class the first day, and I have my PowerPoint, and we're going over all these things. And I say, okay, and I'm very excited, right? I'm like, here we go, let's get started. And I look out, and everybody in the classroom does this. Right? I'm going, come on, you guys are excited. This is going to be a great class. We're going to have a lot of fun. And then I'll just give you this blank stare. And so I'm waiting. And from the back of the classroom, this hand slowly creeps up. And I'm like, yes, I've got a student ready. What do you need to know? And they said, are you going to put the PowerPoints online? And I was ready for that one. And I said, no, I'm not putting the PowerPoints online because you won't come to class. That's what I was told. So I'm not going to do it. And so that first semester we went through, didn't put the PowerPoints online. Class was okay, right? It was all right. We did good. Class went fine. Students were like, yeah, great, wonderful class, whatever. So we get done, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, how am I going to improve this when I come back the next semester? I got to do something else. I've got to make it better. I've got to make it more exciting, right? My students just sit there and they stare at me. And I teach, and I go, look at the PowerPoint. It's up here, right? Write it down. And they go, okay. And no pens move. They all just stare at it. So I'm like, I have to do something else. So I found at my university this resource that nobody had told me about. And it's called TEACH, and it's the Teaching Effectiveness and Career Enhancement Program. And I can go there and I can do all this professional development. So I'm like, all right, over the summer I'm going to do professional development. I'm going to go to these workshops. They're going to tell me what to do. It's going to be great. Here we go. So I go to these workshops and I'm getting all these different things that I can do in class. And I come back in the fall and I'm like, all right, we're going to do this much better. But I'm not going to put my PowerPoints online, right? Because I've been told not to do that. So I'm not going to put these online. So, okay. So halfway through going through this professional development, one of the things that they did for me was they come into the classroom and they do what's called a mid-semester instructional diagnosis. And so halfway through, they kick me out of the classroom, they come in, they ask my students 3 questions. What do you like about the class? What do you not like? And what suggestions do you have for your professor? So what do you think they didn't like? No PowerPoint, overwhelmingly, right? Like they take all this information that the students give you and they make these charts and it's like, don't like this, don't like this, don't like that she doesn't give us PowerPoints, don't like this, right? So I'm going, oh, wow, they really hate the fact that they don't get PowerPoints. Now the nice thing about this was that they ask them, why don't you like that? And so I'm reading these comments from students and they're saying things like, there's a lot of stuff to write down, right? It's not all on the PowerPoint. So we have to write what's on the PowerPoint and then we have to write what she's saying and we can't get it all written down. And I'm thinking, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because I don't put everything up here. So I thought, all right, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna put the PowerPoints online, all right? So I go home and I'm getting, and I've got it all up, I'm ready to hit enter, and I'm just like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. So my PowerPoints, I can't, boom, I hit enter. Guess what? My students still came to class. They downloaded those PowerPoints, they used them to write their notes from, and they still came to class. And so, like the next couple weeks, I'm counting, I'm like, okay, all right, they're here. They're here. They got the PowerPoints, but they're here. And I'm watching them in class, and they have them printed out so that they can write notes on them, or they've brought their laptop, and they're typing away on there, and they liked it. And I thought, wow. And nothing broke, right? Everything was still okay. I could still breathe. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to start doing this. And I'm going to start talking to my students and finding out what they want from me as a teacher. Because I come from this old school of teaching, right? I come from, you sit, I talk, you listen, you write. It's not like that anymore. They don't like that at all. So I started talking to my students in class and saying, hey, what do you guys want? What do you like? What do you need me to do? And from that, I came up with some things, and we're going to go over some of these things today. Now, this is a lovely video that I have that is not playing. I don't know, not my technology system, so it's not playing, but this is a great video that talks about digital natives. So who here knows what a digital native is? Anybody? You, what's your name?
Randall.
Randall, what's a digital native?
Digital native is somebody that was born into an era where computers are unusual to them.
Right, exactly. They were literally born with technology in their hand, in their pocket, somewhere all around them, okay? They've grown up in this era of cell phones, smartphones, laptops, tablets, and they have access to it all the time, right? I have a 13-year-old son. He's a digital native. He has this, little phone. When he was younger, he'd always be like, Mom, all my friends are getting cell phones. I'm like, you're going to have one when you're 25 because you don't need it. He has a cell phone. He's 13, he has a cell phone, and it's always with him, right? I'm like, who are you? Who do you need it? We go out the door, gotta grab my phone. I'm like, who are you going to call? Well, what if I need to call you? I'm like, I'm with you, So, but he's got to have the cell phone with him. And then, right now I'm in Chicago, him and Dad are at home, and I get these constant updates from him, these texts, right? Dad and I are just sitting here, just like random things. And, and so then I'll talk to my husband on the phone, I'll go, hey, how was your day? And he'll tell me like exactly what I got texted to me. I'm like, yeah, Zach has been texting me all that stuff all day. I said, so just so you know, if you don't want me to find out something, make sure you're not around, because I'm getting like second by second updates on what's happening. But that's what they're doing, right? And so these digital natives we see, they're in our classroom now. Millennials, right? Millennials are digital natives, but true digital natives are really just starting to come into our classroom. This is Generation Z. This is my son's generation. These are the guys that it's always been there and it's always been accessible, and they don't know life without technology. So these are the guys that we sort of have to change our mindset on how we teach, because we are not digital natives, right? We're what are called digital immigrants. So we have to learn to use this technology, but we might not like it. We might be like, yeah, okay. My husband came back to the classroom last year, and he had been out of the classroom longer than I had, and he walked in, and he's like, okay, where's the overhead projector? It's like, no, we don't do that anymore. But that's where we're coming from, right? We're the overhead projector era, where you print off your copies and you put them on there and you, look, here you go, okay, take it off. That's where we're coming from. And these guys, they don't even know what that is. They've never seen one, right? So they're like, what are you talking about? So trying to connect to them and using this technology and figuring out what they want to use is kind of where I'm coming from and what we're going to talk about today. So again, like I said, this is a great video that you can't see, but we are going to talk about that video here in a few minutes too. So I'll kind of tell you a little bit about what that is. So it is a little warm in here. But, I'm attached to this. So a little bit about me again, why me? Why am I doing this? This is an interest of mine from a teaching standpoint. I come from the great state of Texas. Who's you-hooing? Okay, what's your name?
Frank.
Frank? And where are you from in Texas? San Antonio, okay. Very good place to go. Anyone else from Texas?
Austin.
You're from Austin, okay. Austin's a great place. I have family in Austin, so I go there at least once a year.
I live in Austin.
You live in Austin as well. Okay, excellent, John. So yeah, Austin, wonderful. San Antonio is great too. I've been there several times. Anybody else from Texas?
Austin.
You're from Austin as well. What's your name?
Steve.
Steve. Are you all from the same place?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So Texas, great. I wasn't always from Texas. Before I came to Texas, I was in Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Anybody a Virginia person in here? Where are you from in Virginia? Newport News, okay. And you're nodding, or you're just nodding for him? Encouragement, okay. And then before that, I was born and raised Northeast Ohio, outside of Cleveland. Go Cavs, all right. They just won, very exciting. It's been like 52 years since Cleveland's won anything in the world, so it's a thrill. So anybody Ohio? No Ohio people, okay. So yeah, we get out of Ohio when we can, just so you know. So that's kind of where I came from. And right about where this star is on the little Texas map here is where Texas Tech is. So this is Lubbock, Texas, far west Texas. We're really close to the New Mexico border. It's flat, it's dry. What's that? Dusty, yes. We get haboobs. Have you all heard about haboobs? Okay, huge dust storms, right? Haboobs. So we get those in West Texas a lot. There's not a lot to keep stuff down. Trees are really small, right? We don't have a lot going on there. So that's where I'm at right now. I've been in Lubbock actually since 1999, so 16, 17 years now. Second longest I've lived in one place. Before that was Cleveland. Go Cleveland. So that's where I'm at. Like I said, I'm about to graduate here in August. Pretty excited about that, to just be done with everything that I've been working on. So that's that. Before I get into all the engagement stuff, we're going to do a little engagement with you. So I handed out a little card to you that has Go Soapbox on it. So if you have a smartphone, if you have a laptop, a tablet, pull it out. We're going to use it. And if you go to the website here, this app.gosoapbox.com, it'll bring you an option over here in the right-hand corner. It'll say join an event. So you want to join an event. And then you'll bring up this box. And this is your event number right here. So you're just going to pop that in there, hit join now. It's free for you. Now there's one caveat, I believe only, because this is the free version right now, only 30 people can join. So once 30 of you have joined, it might be like, oh, you can't join. We're going to partner at that point, right? We're going to do what we're supposed to be doing, and we're going to partner together to work on stuff on Go Soapbox. Once you get into the events, you should see a screen like this. And so it's going to have a little poll on here. You can go ahead and take that poll. It's going to ask you what your job title is, basically what level of education you're working in. And then it has this right down here, this social Q&A. So that's there as we're going along. If you have a question, you can go on there and you can just ask a question on there. And I'll periodically kind of look at that and pull that up to see if I'm answering things, okay? It's kind of hard to see. This light's pretty bright right here. I looked. I think that's the only light switch. So I'm not really sure. Or maybe someone in the back of the room is going to figure it out. I'm not sure. But yeah, it needs to dim or go off. Okay, so, and you have that little postcard there. If you're having trouble getting it on, you can keep working on that. All right, so let's talk about student engagement. So student engagement, definition, a property of the relationship between a teacher or an instructor and his or her students. So again, this goes to, we're talking about relationships, right? It's not just me as the instructor standing here and giving you all of my knowledge, right? It's a give and take. We go back and forth. We develop a relationship through the course of our class, and we engage, okay? So now, I don't know about you, but again, when I first walk into a classroom and I try to get students engaged and asking questions, you know, this expectation that I have is we're going to have these wonderful discussions, everybody's going to contribute, it's going to be great, and I get, right? You know, this is what they do. They're like, why? So I have to kind of find ways to do that. And again, the classes, when I teach face-to-face, I have 50-minute classes. So sometimes I do have a lot that I have to say. And it's kind of hard to get all that in and still be active and have a lot of different things going on. So I use things like this Go Soapbox, right? Maybe I really have to talk for 40 out of 50 minutes. I can use that, and students can ask questions as they go along without really disrupting the flow of the class. And then you saw on there too, there's a thing that's like, I'm confused or I'm getting it. So if I'm saying something and they just don't get it, they can click on that I'm confused, and I can see, okay, hey, I've got some students that aren't getting it. Let's back up a little bit before we try to go on any further. So it does help me as a teacher, but it helps them. It also helps them because, you know, some people don't want to raise their hand. They don't want to talk. They really just want to sit there in the class. And so this gives them a way to participate and communicate without actually having to speak. Yes?
So how often will you refresh this? So that like if you change topics, do you keep refreshing?
I'll just pop on maybe every like 10 minutes, kind of gives them a little break, and I can go through and look at it. So I can just go, let's see, there's my, right, so right here, and I have not been to Can Brasserie.
Where did that come from?
This is, somebody asked a question, right? So on that thing where it says social Q&A, they can ask a question. This is my screen that I see.
Okay, so somebody in here asked you that.
Yeah, so somebody asked me this question right here.
Oh, I replied to it.
Well, hey, that's it. No, but that's okay too. You can do that, and you're communicating. Yes, sir.
So now everybody in the class is talking to each other.
Do you know the password for?
It's Casey.
Okay, turn off your Wi-Fi, and it's okay. You have it written down. KC Guest Visitor 900. KC Guest Visitor 900.
Capital KC, capital G, guest, and then capital visitor.
900.
All caps on visitor.
Thank you.
Just to be capital V, visitor.
That's because your phone is stuck in the cable.
Okay.
Your phone gets get
All right, so yeah, we've got that Wi-Fi password question yet. But yeah, so you can respond to each other on here too. So maybe if I haven't refreshed it, if I haven't looked at it, but somebody else knows the answer, they can go, oh, here's the answer. And so now you're communicating with each other as well, okay? So you can do that. But yeah, so this is my screen that I get to see on here as we go along. And then like I said, you have the I'm getting it, I'm confused, you know, so I can see are more students getting it or more students confused about something, and then I can go on from there.
So after 10 minutes, you're just checking status of the whole room.
Yeah, I try to break up like about every 10 minutes. And there is research out there that shows that our students nowadays, really 20 minutes is about the longest that they'll focus, and then it goes down after that. So it's like 20 minutes, you need to take a break, and then it's like 15 after that. And it just goes down and down and down. Yes?
So it seems like as you're talking now, we're engaging in this. We're playing with buttons.
Right.
We're like going, I want to be confused, so I see what that does.
Yeah, well,
I'm not paying attention to you. So does that create problems in the class?
in the beginning, yeah, because it's a new thing. But once you get used to it and you're used to having it in there, you know, you don't have to sit there and press all the buttons. Also, from a teacher standpoint, kind of setting some rules and some guidelines for your students. Hey, here's what I expect. So they may not have their phone out during the whole class. It might be, hey, this first 20 minutes I'm going to talk, and then you can pull your phone out and we're going to do this. And then we're going to do this. So it kind of goes back and forth. They may not have that all the time. It just depends on how the class is going. So yeah, I think definitely setting guidelines in the beginning of how this is going to work really helps you out with your students. Yes, sir.
Okay, so we just had a bunch of closure meetings at the university, and we talked about, you know, classroom management and rules and things of that nature, and there's a bunch of instructors, professors who were saying, I don't allow technology in my classroom. You know, I just eliminate no cell phones, no
Right.
laptops, or all that stuff like that. And it's, you know, and if they take out their phone, then they lose a letter grade for their class.
Right.
You know, not for the day, for the class. That kind of a thing. And everybody's cheering, you know, for these heroes.
Yes.
You know, in the way they conduct their classroom. I'm sitting there going, oh my God. But at the same time, it is a real struggle. You know, if you allow them to have their phone out, they're on Facebook, they're on YouTube, and those are the challenges. And when you have a large classroom, and they're sitting in the back, and one person's doing this, you know, and then they, you know, then it's not my lecture notes they're looking at. You know?
No, and so yes and no on that. So yeah, again, depending on the size of your classroom, you're going to have different rules and different expectations, and you're going to allow different things in there. I have sat in the classroom where I watched someone teach once, and I sat in the back of the class, and there were about 80 students in there, and for the first 20 minutes, everybody was and then I watched one girl, she had her little laptop out, and then I watched her, you know, get on and start shopping for shoes, you know, and I'm sitting back there going, those are cute, buy those. But, you know, I'm like, so yes, so this happens, and you lose it because it was a really big classroom, and so the teacher's up here, and that student's way back there, and you can't really pay attention to what's going on. So again, yes, you have to set some boundaries for when they can do it, maybe not have that technology out the entire time in the classroom. If you have a smaller classroom, much more easy to manage, but also moving around. You know, as an instructor, don't just stand up there.
Oh, yeah.
Move around, walk around, see what's going on, because you know what? They're going to be like, oh crap, here she comes. Right, shoot, I can't do it. Oh, what if she walks back here? So, you know, you have to kind of keep that in mind too, that if you're moving around your students, it kind of keeps them off balance, where they're like, oh, I got to pay attention, right? Or when you notice, I mean, I call people out, and I'll be like, hey, Bob, what are you doing back there, you know? Oh, nothing, really, because I think you're on YouTube. You know, and so they're, oh yeah, I am. Okay, let's get off. And you just kind of, you know, after you do it a few times, I think students actually are. I think we all have that expectation of they're going to do this, they're going to do this, they're going to do this, right? My PowerPoint, they're not going to come to class if I put the PowerPoint out there. But you know what? They do. I think for the most part. Now, you're going to have ones that aren't. You're going to have people who are not going to come to class. You have people that aren't going to pay attention to class. And it doesn't matter what you do or what you don't do, that's just the way they are. That's how they're going to be. And so you kind of have to understand that too, that maybe I have a class of 40 people, and maybe 35 of those 40 people are going to come to class all the time. Maybe 38 of those are going to pay attention, and I'm going to have 2 that just aren't. And that's just them, you know? And guess what? I'm going to see them next semester and that's their choice. Yes?
You're utilizing this. I can remember a student I had last quarter that halfway, I didn't utilize smartphones in class, but he made a reference to his phone, and it was a flip phone that he had obviously been milking for the last 8 years. Like, I can't afford one of those.
Right.
So I guess I'm trying to think, I don't think a student would be less, or not feeling a part of it if they were using this. I mean, it means they'd have to just ask.
Or they can partner with some, you know, hey, can I partner up with you? Because this, I don't know who's asking what on there.
Right.
Now, I can set it on that Go Soapbox. I can set it so that people put their names in, because then I can do quizzes and things on there as well, and I can actually do assessment that way. I just have it set right now where you don't have to, and so I can set it if I just want to do questions in the class, and I don't necessarily need to know who's asking the question. I can set it anonymously. And so, yeah, then they can be like, hey, let me ask, you know, this question real quick or something. And they can do it that way, too. Or they can raise their hand. Or they can wait till the end of the class and come up and go, hey, way back in the beginning when you said this, I had a question. Yes.
You wait till the end of the class and come up and ask questions that you started with.
Yes.
Why are we talking about that when we were talking about it?
But that goes back to they don't want to raise their hand, they don't want to talk, they don't want to do those things. So you kind of get stuck with that. So anyway, student engagement, creating that relationship. Before we can engage with our students, again, we have to know who they are and what they want. So again, the lovely video that didn't play at the very beginning, a few things on that. Again, it's talking about digital natives. It's talking about students that are in our classroom right now. 97% of students say that they have a smartphone. 97%. Okay, so you might run into 1 or 2 that don't, kind of like you said, hey, I don't want to pay for one, that's fine. But 97% say that they have a smartphone, so they can actually get on and do these things. 93% of your students text daily, and they text a lot, right? You have a question.
The 3% that don't have smartphones, are they likely to be the 3% that come from low-income backgrounds and your most high-risk students?
I don't know on that. I mean, I can't give you a definitive answer on that. They might be from, like you said, high-risk backgrounds. They might come from lower-income families. They might not have the income to do it themselves. They might just not want to.
Well, yeah, in our culinary school, our average age is 28. We have a lot of return from industry people, so it's not all the plugged-in generation.
Right.
You're right. It's still a high percentage that are. So maybe they, as students, can teach the ones that are not plugged in.
Yes, yes.
So get the older students to partner with the younger students.
And when we talk about engagement, it's not just me and my student, it's student and student as well, right? We want them to learn from each other.
They need to learn, yeah, exactly. So it's just a question of partnering.
Yes. But so 93% text daily. You know how you can check your phone stuff and see like your texts and stuff? A little while ago, I checked our families, and like I have like 250 texts for the month. My husband has like 178, and my son had like 3,000 and some texts. I'm going, and if you look at his text, they're like, hey, what up? I mean, this is the text. I'm like writing stories in my text going, so I was walking down the street, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and his is like, watching TV. I'm like, what are you doing? Yes?
So you got to think that 3% that don't have smartphone, more than likely will have a smart device. A $100 iPod Touch does just the same thing as an iPhone.
So there you go. So maybe not just or they might have a laptop or a notebook or something like that, because they can use that as well. So,
Donna,
yes.
Is there someplace we can go to see the video that we can't see right now?
Yes, I will at the end. I'll pull up and I'll write up. I don't know if I can write up there or not. It looks like I can. But I can give you the, it's on YouTube. Yeah. It's if you type in digital natives versus digital immigrants, it pops up on there. It's Moby is singing in the background. So and it says on there like Moby singing. So that's it. So, okay, so let's go into, because I have a lot more. So to understand how to engage our students, we have to understand who our students are. So this kind of goes over here, digital natives, right? So you've got all your technology over here. Here's what I was talking about earlier, digital immigrants over here, right? Reluctant to kind of do some of these things over here. It's like, no, this is the way it's always been done. We write down things, right? We hold a book in our hands and we read it. You know, we put our things on there and we show them. So a little bit of reluctance to try and learn some of these things and try to incorporate these things. And kind of like you said, you sit in there and you have all these professors going, no technology in the classroom. I'm not letting them bring out their phone. They're going to lose a letter grade. And I hear that all the time too. I talked to, when I was interviewing for the job I'm going to do next year, and I sat there with all these professors that I've had as professors that are teaching classes. And overwhelmingly, we have a little bit of an older professor population in our program. Overwhelmingly, they're all like, no, we don't do that stuff. Don't want to know how to do it, no plans for it, right? And the students are like, oh man, I gotta go sit in that class again. And I'm just gonna sit there. And this is what it's gonna be like. They don't like it, you know? And so what happens, we end up losing students. Right? Because they find somewhere else, they go, oh, but you know what? The College of Business over here, they'll let us bring out our smartphone and do some stuff. So, hey, I'm in management. I'm going to go to management over there instead. And they start leaving. They go somewhere else because they just aren't enjoying what they're doing in the classroom, right? So we want to make sure that we are engaging them so that they're learning, but also so that they stick around and they stay with us. So I'm going to go through some apps that do different things. So you have file sharing apps, right? So that you can share files instead of like typing something up and emailing it and then you fix it and you email it back and you go back and forth. There's lots of different apps out there now, different web platforms that you can use and you can actually do this on. So like Google Docs is a great one. You know, you get everybody gets their Google password and you can put that on and everybody, you can have 2 people, you can have 4 people, you can have 10 people. They can all see whatever document you're working on. They can make changes to it. You don't have to email it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So it's a great thing to do. Student response system. So the Go Soapbox is an example of a student response system where they can just immediately at their fingertips respond to something. You can do a poll, you can do a quiz, you can do whatever you want. They can respond to it just like that, right? Screencasting. Now, I haven't done screencasting, but I've talked to some people in other colleges who have done screencasting. And basically what screencasting is, what I'm doing right here, I could actually record this. So if I have a student who's not in my classroom right now, if they don't want to come to class, right, they can watch it while it's going on. So that's what screencasting is. So, you know, it kind of goes back to the whole PowerPoint thing. I want them to be in class, but sometimes things happen, right? Maybe they're out of town for something. Maybe they have an interview that they've gone to, and they still want to be able to see what happened in class, so you could actually use some of this. So I haven't done this yet, right? That's my digital immigrant going, no, I don't want to. But possibly somewhere down the road, I will. And then other things that you can use. So things like Remind. Anybody here use Remind in their classroom? So, well, you don't have to use it in your classroom, but that's okay. You use it. So what level do you teach?
High school.
High school, okay. What do you teach?
Post-secondary.
Post-secondary. Somebody else had their hand up back here. What level do you teach at? Post-secondary, okay. So high schools, middle schools, a lot of these schools use Remind a lot. My son, all his teachers use Remind, and so he has it, right? So they'll send something out that's like, hey, don't forget, this is due tomorrow. But I have it too, so that when I say, hey, do you have any homework tonight? And he goes, no. I say, really? Because right here, right? So it's a great tool that way. As a parent, I can follow up on things. It's great, right? It's yeah, so yeah, and when you go into middle schools and high schools, they give that out to the parents as well as the kid. So it works out. But it's a great way to remind your students things are due, things are coming up, hey, you have a test, you know, just to keep that out there. So you can do that. There's some apps that you can share notes. There's an app. I have like 8,000 apps on my phone that I just sat there and downloaded one day. But there's an app called Scannable that you can actually, if I have a document, I can scan it on my phone and just share it that way. So I don't have to go through the whole email it to myself, email it to everybody else, do all that kind of stuff. I just, boom, there it is, right? So I can share things that way with my students as well. So we're going to talk about these specific apps right here. So this one at the top is the Go Soapbox that you've already logged into, okay? This one at the bottom is Plickers. So, and we're going to do Plickers at the end, but you guys got one of these? This is a Plicker, okay? And I'll tell you when we get to this, kind of how this came about. But this is Plickers. It's like Clicker, yeah, but it's Plicker, P-L-I-C-K-E-R.
Which is turning point technology there?
It's, yeah, this is, so for those students, if you have 3% that don't have a smartphone, they don't have to have anything to use this. I do, but they don't have to have anything to use this. So it's like real low tech for them, right? But they love it. It's fun. And then right in here, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. So we can use these inside our classroom. We can use them outside our classroom, and we can use them also, especially these three right here, as a way to tie classrooms together. So again, like I said, I teach face-to-face and I teach online. It's the same class going on, but two different groups of students, right? I can use this, and I can actually bring both of those classes together. So all those students that are out there kind of in cyberspace doing their own little thing, they can connect with my students that are in my face-to-face class. They can share, they can collaborate, they can do things, and they learn from each other, right? They're engaging each other this way. So we're going to talk a little bit about these. So when I look at between and outside, so Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat here. So when I was first kind of getting this idea of how I wanted to do these things in my class, you know, I downloaded on my phone Instagram and Twitter, because you hear about these things all the time, right? And my son, of course, one day was looking at it, he's like, Mom, you have Instagram? It's like, yeah. He's like, oh, Mom, I want Instagram. I'm like, dude, I don't even use it. I don't know how, you know? I'm like, I just downloaded it. But so, of course, I think Fred said, you know, if you have a teenager, they can teach you. My son, who doesn't have Instagram, was like, Mom, here's what you do. Boom, got me all logged in, ready to go. So I use these in my class. So my experimental foods class, we're making food, right? So Instagram, of course, you've got food porn out there. Everybody takes pictures of their food. I thought that's a natural to use in a foods class, right? So my students can take pictures of things. They can share them with each other and be like, here you go, look, this is what I made. Well, this is what I made. Well, mine turned out better than yours. So they can do that kind of thing. But then also, again, so my online students, as they're doing things, they do the labs, but they do them somewhere else, not in the physical space that I am in. So as they're doing things, if something comes up, hey, my cake fell, they can send me a picture of it. And I can look at it, and I can go, well, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? And they go, oh, that's it. I get it, right? So they can like instantaneously send me something and say, hey, I'm having a problem. Can you help me out that way? So they can do that. They can do that. You can put pictures and videos on Twitter as well to do that, right? So they can sort of do this too and tweet little, like, put a little, hey, blah, 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 and send me things that way or send things to each other, okay? So from a teacher standpoint, I can use those. I encourage my students. I answer questions with using these apps. From a student standpoint, they get a lot more out of it because they get it from me, but they can get it from the other people in their class as well. So they get suggestions for things. They get answers to things, right? They have a lot of resources this way. I have 40 students in a class. They have 40 resources now that they can use when they run into a problem. And then they get support. They get, yeah, that happened to me too. Here's mine, right? And they send you the little picture. And they go back and forth, and they communicate with each other that way. So kind of do that outside of the class. Snapchat. Anybody here on Snapchat? Okay. Okay, all right. So a couple of you are on Snapchat. You're on Snapchat? All right. So this, in my food and beverage operations class, I had a lesson one day talking about kind of how do you as students communicate, right? And so we were talking about all these social media apps and things like that. I'm going, well, how about Twitter? How about Instagram? They're like, yeah, those are good. I'm like, well, what do you guys like? Oh, professor, Snapchat. Snapchat is where I'm like, well, I've heard of it, but what is this, Snapchat? And one of my students like, oh, let me see your phone, let me get you set up, right? So they get me set up on Snapchat. They're like, here you go. And I'm like, okay, I have no idea what to do. Snapchat, so they had to teach me, right? They're like, here's what you do. I'm going, okay. So Snapchat, you can share this, right? They can take pictures and send you pictures, but they can make these stories. So they can go, if they're working on a project, if they're working on a recipe, they can kind of take pictures as they go along, like here I am mixing it up, here I am doing this, here I am doing that, and tie it all together and send out this story so I can look at it and go, yep, oh, right there is where you made a mistake, right? Go back, stop here, and do this next time. I can correct them as they go along. Now I said, why do you guys like Snapchat? You know why they like it? Because it goes away, right? So let's say they put something up and it's like, oh wow, I can't believe I did that and made that big mistake. It's going to go away and tomorrow they don't have to worry about it. So they like that idea that, hey, it's here for the moment and that's it, because they're all living in the moment, right? So Snapchat has been a huge thing, and so I've started using that with my students, and they really, really like it.
So your phone bill is blowing up.
Okay, yes. We're going to get to the blowing up part of the phone here in a second. So inside the class, so I kind of use this. So the Go Soapbox, right? So that's a little student response system that I can use in the class. Plickers is also a student response system, and we're going to get to that. But I use Twitter inside my class. So again, I try to break it up, right? 50 minutes of class. Like I said, 20 minutes, they can actually pay attention. And then they're like, whoa, look at the ceiling. I've never noticed it before, right? So we got to break things up. So I do the Twitter Minute. And so you can log on, you can go on Twitter, right? And you can actually bring up your Twitter feed. And so we'll come up with a hashtag for whatever the topic is to get them to communicate with each other. Here's your topic, here's your hashtag, pull out your phone, go. And they tweet back and forth to each other. And you can sit there and watch it on the computer, so I can watch and kind of see what's going on, see what they're talking about. I can watch it on my phone. They can watch it on there, and they're communicating. And they think it's really cool. They're like, yeah, here you go, this is so cool, right? So they're all on there, and they're like, yeah, this is great. I'm like, wow, you guys are having a discussion. This is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to talk about things. But we have to talk on our phone because that's the way we do things now. So, but we can do that. So you can do it in the classroom. You can set it up so if my online class, right, they're wherever they are, hey, we're going to have a Twitter discussion at this time. If you guys want to participate, go ahead. Here's your hashtag. Here's your topic. Boom, so they can get on. And so while I'm in the class and I have my 40 students in there, I have other people who are outside who can actually communicate and interact with those students as well. So it ties those two classes together. So, all right, let's look here for a second. Which one do I want to look at? That's Plickers. Okay, let me go back to this one. All right, here's some questions. So can you track individual students? You can. So I can have it set to where you have to actually log in with your name, and I can then track each student on here. So it just depends what I want to do. If I want to do a quiz and I want to count it as a grade, I can put a quiz up here, I can have them log on with their name, and then I can actually, let me get to this other page over here. Okay. This is, this is everything that I end up with. So I can do discussions, do all these things. And then if I go to moderate the event, see down here at the bottom where it has the polls and the social Q&A, I can actually export that stuff out so that I have a paper version. So if I do a quiz as a poll, and I have students log in with their names, I can then export the answers out so I can actually then go through and grade that.
You're using Go Soapbox for the quiz?
Yeah,
Okay.
So the poll, where they have that poll one, you would create polls, multiple, and that would be your quiz. And so then you can export all that and use it as a grade, and you have that.
If you go back to the questions, the
Mhm.
list of questions. So I just realized, so is that on the first question, the can brasserie, does that mean 8 people are responsible for 19 responses?
Yes, so there's 8 people that are communicating on here right now.
That's
on that.
actually upvotes.
It's actually what?
Upvotes.
Oh, that they're saying yes.
Oh.
Okay.
Upvoting brings the questions up higher priority. So you can click on any of them to upvote it.
Nearpod. Can I ask who posted about Nearpod? Anybody want to claim that one? It says Nearpod is an amazing app for engagement. Okay, if you don't want to talk about it, that's okay. Many components make it a valuable tool for education, so that might be something that y'all want to look at. Nearpod. Okay? Anonymity, ever a problem. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. There are some opportunities and some risks to using social media in your classroom. That could be one of them. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Who uses Kahoot? Anybody in here use Kahoot? A few of you do. Do you like it? Do your students like it?
They love it, absolutely.
What level do you teach at? Postgraduate. Okay, very good. What about?
My kids love it.
They like it. Okay.
They asked me about it like, when I first started. They're like, "Are you gonna use Kahoot?" And I'm like, So I had to go find out what it was. and
Yes.
work it, but yeah.
Yeah. And so that's sort of Kahoot's sort of the same thing. You can create quizzes and things online. They can go on and answer those quizzes. Just a little more interactive for them to do those things. Trello. I've used Trello just for some organizations that I was in. So Trello, again, is a way that you can do, if you want to do a project where you can set it up and you have certain people in that project and they can contribute to that. So I've used that before too. Yes. And Socratic. How can I get a Soapbox account? It's free. You go to Go Soapbox and you just say, I want to be on here, and they'll give you a free account. It takes like 10 seconds to do it. So you can do that. Like I said, best barbecue in Dallas. I don't go to Dallas a lot. Sorry. So I don't know best barbecue in Dallas. Austin has some great barbecue place though, right? Franklin's is really good. What else? Styles. So Austin, good barbecue. Austin has a lot of good food, actually, if you go there. I like to go and eat in Austin as well. Okay, so now let's go back. So let's look at Plickers for a second. So this is my Plickr account right here. So I have questions that I'm going to put on here for you, and you're going to get to answer them, but I haven't put it on yet. So you can see right here, it doesn't show anything. So again, if you want to do Plickers, your students don't have to have technology. You do. You download the app on your phone, and that's all that you have to do. This is the Plickr. Okay, so if you look at your Plickr, you can see it has a number on it somewhere. So like this one I have in my hand is number 7. And then each of the sides is lettered. So you have an A, B, C, and D side. Okay? So what you're going to do, let's see. Okay, so here's your question, right? True, false question, A, B. If you think the answer is A, you turn your Plickr so that the A side is up and hold it up, all right? If you think it's B, you turn it to the B side and hold that up. So our question, if you use social media in the classroom, you should keep separate personal and professional accounts. Everybody hold up your Plickr. And then I am going to scan. So as I scan, you see over here, these numbers, you can see if your number got scanned. Okay? So this is it. And so again, I have this set up right now so it's anonymous. You don't have to make it anonymous. You can use it for formal assessment if you want to grade your students on quizzes and do things in the class that way. Okay. So I might not get everybody here. We're trying. Sometimes it doesn't, it takes a second, but. Okay, so then you see everybody here. It tells you, so guess 5. I didn't get whoever guess 5 is over here. And then I can reveal the answer. So you can see here, did you get it correct or did you not get it correct? So you know, right? You go, ooh, I'm number 7, and of course I'm number 6. Whoever's number 6, look, I got it correct, right? So it's anonymous to you. I mean, it's anonymous to everybody else in the class. They can't say, oh, she got it wrong. She doesn't know the answer, right? Because they don't know. Unless you say, hey, I'm number 6 and I got it wrong, they don't know that you got it wrong. So it helps you that way. Excuse me. Now, you can do this different ways. You can do it to where it has to have their name, but that kind of takes the anonymity out of here. You can just, if you want to use these in your class, go at the very beginning of class and go, you're number 7. I'm going to write that down. So that if you want to use it for a formal assessment, then you can go back, you can actually save all this information, and you can say, okay, I know that Donna is number 7, and she got it right, so good job, Donna, right? So you can do that way too. Yes, sir?
Is it pretty reliable? Like, I don't see mine, or do you need to scroll down?
Yeah, see, I scroll down.
Oh, okay, so it is reliable, you're getting everybody.
Yes.
All right.
So, and so sometimes depending on the size of the classroom, just like that, you have to walk around and scan everybody. You know, if it's a small classroom, it's a little bit easier to do. This is free as well. So you can go on plickers.com, you can set up an account. They give you 40 free plickers. So I have 40 of these. They're all a little bit different. You download them, and there you go, right? You can use them in more than one class. So if you're teaching several different classes, you just hang on to these, right? And you just pass them out in different classes and use them that way. So again, free. They really like it. When I did this past semester, and the reason I did it was I ended up teaching in a basement. And so what happens when you're in the basement? Wi-Fi is unreliable, right? So I use Poll Everywhere sometimes, and I was doing Poll Everywhere, and I had students going, I can't get logged on, I can't do this, da da da. So I thought, man, I have to find something else to do because this basement is not working. So I go on, and I use Pinterest just for myself personally a lot. I got on Pinterest, and you type in different things, blah, 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 and this Plickers idea came up, and I'm like, well, let me find out what that is. So then I got online, and I started reading about Plickers, and I thought this might work. So I printed these all off, and I was like, okay, we're going to try this and see what you think. And so we did it. They're like, this is so much fun. We love it. I'm like, really? Holding up a piece of paper? They're like, yes, it's great. So I was like, all right. They're like, please don't get rid of Plickers. I'm like, okay, we'll keep Plickers. So, so we did that. So now I use this and when I did my mid-semester instructional diagnosis, right, what do you like? Plickers. They're like, we love Plickers. And the guy who came in and did it, he's like, what are these things? Because your class loves it. I'm like, well, let me tell you. So, yeah, so they love this. I'm going, all right, hey, here we go.
Are you taking a picture every single placard, or are you doing a video? Or?
It's, as I scan through, it's just scanning that placard, and so, like, it flashes at me, like, on every one, so that I know, you got it, right? So, yeah, so it's just doing that. So, okay, so on this, if you use social media in your classroom, you should keep separate personal and professional accounts. Yes, true, right? So, if I'm using Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, anything else as social media, I have an account that is for my class, and they get that name, right? Follow this, join me here, friend me here, right? I don't mix my personal with it because I don't really want them to be in my personal accounts, That's okay. That's, pictures of my kid, and they don't really need to see all that. So I have separate accounts for things like that. And they generally don't. So it's, again, setting those guidelines. Hey, make sure that what you're sending to me, you really want me to see. Don't send me everything. But, sometimes you get random stuff, and you're just like, yeah, so you had a great weekend, didn't you? And so you go on from there. So, all right, let's do another question here. Let's see. Okay, done with that one. So, okay, new question. So you should create policies, procedures, and guidelines for class use of social media. A is true, B is false. Okay, and so I'm going to kind of scan through really quick, and if I get you, I get you. And we'll see how that goes. Okay, so, and if you want to see, you can see. when I scan it. See how it does that little flash thing right there? That's it. So, I think it depends. So I used to have the iPhone 5, and it didn't scan as well. My students, Professor, you really need to upgrade. I'm like, so I upgraded, right? They're like, you need to go new, and I'm like, yeah, I know, but I don't want to pay for it. So anyway, right? So okay, so yes, on this one, policies, procedures, guidelines. So things like what is appropriate for them to send you on social media and what is not appropriate for them to send you on media. You need to go over some of those things, right? And inevitably, you'll have a list and you'll be like, please send me this, please don't send me this. And then you'll get something, you'll be like, wow, never thought about that. So you got to keep going back and adjusting that list and making sure that they understand that. Now, your administrators, right? You might, especially those of you that are in high school, middle school, things like that, you probably have some guidelines already for social media use, and you might not be able to use it. So bring your administrators into this when you're setting up these policies. Say, hey, I think this is going to work. I don't think this is going to work. Let them be involved in it. They might be a little bit more open to it. And then also, hey, so I really want to use Snapchat. You join me on Snapchat as well so that you can see what's happening in it, right? Give them access to your class Snapchat so they can see what's going on, right? Again, going to make them a little bit more open. If they don't know what's happening, they're going to be like, oh, this is bad, right? So you want to make sure that you have them involved in it as well. And then, like I said, with that, you're going to keep changing it. Everything's going to change and change and change. I taught this past semester face-to-face an 8 a.m. class for the first time. And in my syllabus, I don't have anything about, hey, if you show up at 8:30 for your test, it's not a good idea, right? Because I never had that experience. My classes were in the afternoon. Guess what? Maybe they came in a few minutes late, but they showed up. So 8 a.m., first class that I have, everybody's leaving, 8:30, I have the student stroll in. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm here for the test. Like, okay, and I don't have a policy. And so this is one of those things in education, if you don't have a policy, you can't necessarily say no. So I'm like, okay, take the test. You have like 15 minutes, good luck. So I took the test, and then I went upstairs and I talked to my chairperson. I was like, wow, this has never come up. What do I do? And he's like, oh, pulls out this piece of paper. Put this in your syllabus. Here's your policy, because he'd encountered it before and I hadn't. So you're going to keep changing and adding to these things because you're going to encounter things that you don't think of and that haven't happened yet, but will eventually happen. So just know that that's going to keep changing as you go along. So do you guys like plickers? Is it fun? Is it fun holding up paper? Yes.
So one quick question about that. Can you actually, I guess, print out the results from all the questions, or you have to do it individually?
No, you can, because you can create it all together on there, and then you can print out all your results for it. So, and again, like I said, you can assign people certain numbers so that up here it's still anonymous, but you know who they are, so that you can use that as an assessment for them as well. So, all right, let's see, what else do I have here? So I don't know what time it is. I think it's about time that I'm supposed to end. So, okay, so wrapping up then. What do you guys think? Are these things that you might try in your classroom? Okay. And research it. Go on the internet, look it up, and don't just go, like if you're going to do Snapchat, don't go to the Snapchat website because it's not going to tell you very much. Okay, I tried, and it's just like, yeah, use Snapchat, do this. And you're like, okay. But you can go on and you can find people who have used it and they review it and they tell you more information about it and different little tips and tricks and things like that. So go on and find that information. Like I said, I like Pinterest a lot, so maybe you don't want to use these things. Go on and look up like educational technology, and it's going to bring you all kinds of stuff up that you can be like, hey, maybe this will work, maybe this will work. And then for those of you that maybe you can't use these things in your classroom, there is an app out there called Edmodo, E-D-M-O-D-O. Anybody familiar with Edmodo? So Edmodo is generally accepted into most schools. And you can do a lot of these things, in some format on Edmodo. You can do different things there. And your school's going to probably be like, yeah, this is okay, because it's designed to be a safe tool for education. So you don't run into some of the things that you run into in social media. One other thing I think you brought it up was, or no, you brought it up. Frank brought it up. Was on the phone, you were talking about my phone blowing up. So when I set those policies with my class, I do tell them, hey, this is when I work and this is when I don't work. I get it that Sunday night at 11:30 you're trying to finish your project and you have a question. I'm asleep, so I'm not going to answer your question at 11:30 at night. So please, 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 don't Snapchat with me, don't tweet, don't do any of that stuff, because I'm asleep and I'm not going to answer it. Now, if you want to do it at 6 a.m. on Monday morning, that's great, because I'll be up then. They're like, 6 a.m.? We don't get up at 6 a.m. We just went to bed, right? So I'm like, so you kind of have to set those guidelines as well of when you can do this and when you can't do it. And then you have to just, give yourself some control. So my 13-year-old son has no control, right? He hears his phone go off. He's like, oh, the phone. And I'm just like, leave it alone. Why are you trying to answer it? It might be important. I'm like, really? It's one of your friends going, hey, what's up? So, I'm like, that's what they're saying. So, so you have that control for yourself as well, that, you know what, if I look and I'm like, whoa, I've got, 12 things on Snapchat, I don't have to look at it right now because I've told them I'm not working. And so I'm going to wait till tomorrow morning and I'm going to look at it then. So just kind of keep those things in mind if you do use it. Yes, sir?
What happens if someone writes on this?
So on the back of some of them, you actually see names, because sometimes I have my students write on the back of them. It generally, as long as they don't write in this area, it's okay, but you can go back on and reprint them too. So it's not like once you download and print these, that's it. You can go back and reprint these as much as you want. And sometimes, like if you print them and you start running out of ink, that's not going to work as well, so you do have to go back and reprint them, or they get messed up. Someone spills their coffee on it. So you will have to reprint it, but you can do it and it's free.
Can you laminate them?
Laminating they suggest against, because when you're scanning it, that glare causes a problem. So yeah, they tell you not to laminate them. But like this, I just taped it on to a heavier piece of paper just to try to keep them a little bit more sturdy and in good shape. Any other? Yes?
So do you bring those to class with you every day, or do you have a student have their own?
I bring them to class with me, but not every day, and so that's a good point too. I change stuff up, so I may not use Plickers every day. I may not use the Ghost Soapbox every day. I try to change it up, again, just so it's a little bit different every day. So they're not like, oh, we're going to go do this again, right? So I do change, but no, I keep those and I bring them with me. So, and I am going to keep them here too. So if you can take any of the other stuff, but if you'll leave your Plicker when you leave the room, that would be wonderful. Any other questions? Comments? And feel free, if you don't want to raise your hand now, you can come and talk to me after and I won't be mad, or whenever you see me. So, okay, thank you all very much.